This is the second session of working on Mystic's feet. And you can see her foal there, Loki. He's about 2.5 months old right now. Just starting out with a little warm-up here. She really is good at following on the lead line. It comes really naturally to her, so this is a common warm-up I'll do. I just like to hone in on anything that the Mustangs pick up naturally and use that to both our benefit of helping her feel confident and comfortable. It's a good way to also test and just see how are they feeling that day, and get a sense of, you know, what's gonna benefit us most to work on today. So right now I'm just working on switching over to leading from her right side, which she's much more hesitant about. And given the choice, she will put me back on her right side. That's okay. Again, just crossing that meridian from her left to her right more frequently is going to get her more used to seeing me on both sides. And we'll strengthen that over time. Everything I do here with working on the halter, I still really focus on doing with a loose line, because I never want to feel that our connection is mechanical. And what I mean by that is that I'm mechanically keeping her with me by having the line tight. Keeping a loose line really allows me to see, is she really connected with me, and gives her the choice too to interact with me. And just going through another quick warm-up here, especially, you know, with working on picking up their feet, I want to have a really strong connection with touching her. So I'm starting with the spots that she's most comfortable with and just helping to put her in a more relaxed state. And I apologize for the camera work here. I'm using, you know, just kind of a tracking device. It does work for the most part, but it can get a little janky sometimes. Again, I like to frequently step back, just give her a moment, give her some space. I never want her to feel overwhelmed or smothered by the contact. So it's kind of the idea of always leave them wanting more, and that will keep them curious and interested. Yeah, I like how she kind of looked at me a little bit, especially on that side. And I sometimes can touch her directly on the face first. Other times I will again start the shoulder for her is ground zero. Like that is where I can always count on being able to touch her, and then I can expand out from there, but always keeping that connection so that she can track and feel where my hand is going. It can be very startling for them if they just feel a hand appear out of nowhere. At least that's what it feels like to them. And you'll see this a little later in the video, we kind of run into a little issue here. Above her left ear, she got some kind of small cut or abrasion. It doesn't look bad. It's pretty superficial, but obviously she's very, very sensitive to that. And so I think that's why she was kind of giving me some side eye and funky ears here, with me moving my hand up around her head. So I apologize. The Pivo, that's what I'm using, and I have it on tracking the horses, which works great until you have multiple horses in the frame, and then it's not quite sure which one to track. So this is really nice. She is also pretty sensitive to me talking to her, so I do keep the talking to a minimum. That's something that we'll definitely, you know, expand upon in the future, but just knowing where your horse is at and taking it one step at a time. As far as farm noises go, she couldn't care less. Actually, we had construction going on in the pasture behind us there with the excavator and chopping down trees, and she was totally fine. I'm starting right from, point zero there on her shoulder before I move down her leg. Just again, making each one of those steps stronger every time I do it. So going down to the knee, she's really good. I'm just kind of casually doing that a couple times, but you can see I'm always maintaining contact with my hands. So that's very easy for her to track where am I headed. And I still make sure to build in frequent breaks of backing up and giving her a moment. There, I love how she licked and chewed, just reaffirming that she's good with what we've worked on so far. So starting where I know we're good and then starting to expand down. So we got all the way down to the fetlock that time, and she definitely had her ear and eye on me, but she did great. She just stood there. Next, I'm moving into the inside of her leg to see how she responds to it this time. Way better. Again, and it's not always about them picking that foot up. It's really about them getting that exposure and getting used to your hands being on any part of their body. That is paramount before I even have a farrier out. I want to be able to handle this horse myself anywhere. It's kind of like when you are training, you always want to train a level above where you're going to compete. It's the same philosophy. So same pretty benign reaction there to me running down the inside of her leg. And I can't stress enough throughout this, making sure that you are taking nice, big, deep breaths. So there I am applying some pressure. Got her to release and lift up the leg, so that was perfect. Another point I can't stress enough throughout this process when you're doing anything is remembering to breathe. And I mean big, deep sighs. It can be a really bad habit to develop quickly of holding your breath, especially when you're trying something new. And that's the first thing they're going to pick up on is you're holding your breath, and that is a sign of stress and tension. So just being able to take nice, big, deep breaths really helps keep them in a nice, calm state too, and yourself for that matter. So I love that she stepped into me, letting me know, like, we're okay to continue on. So I'm just going to keep working this leg. She's gotten way more comfortable with me just touching it and not kind of, reacting and picking up the foot. So now I'm getting more intentional of applying some pressure down around her fetlock and actually asking her to pick up that foot. So after getting a couple really nice asks on the left side, I was going to go to her right side and repeat that, but she was being really cautious with that cut above her left ear and having a harder time letting me into her right side. So, again, perfect example of working with the horse you have that day. If she gets a little tense, again, leading her around helps calm her down, just kind of moving the feet, doing something that she's really confident in. And I was also trying to reposition her here so we weren't getting too close to that wall. As much as I trust her, I always want to be safe, so I didn't want to be putting myself between her and that wall and getting us into a potentially sticky situation. Crossing over to her right side that time went a lot better. She's still a little more on alert with that that little cut above her left ear, but that's okay. I am keeping that in mind throughout and being very cognizant of that. Right now I'm just rubbing her jawline and working up below that eye. just following the same pattern I did on the other side of starting just below the shoulder there, giving her a little break. Just a pause. It's all about breaking this up into approximations for them. And keeping those approximations small enough that you're not pushing them outside of their threshold, that they're able to stay within the learning zone. I take a little more time on that side. Again, I'm not going to ask for as much as quickly necessarily. I really wasn't quite sure here what she was asking for. It seemed like she wanted me to, rub her face, or, I couldn't see under her mane very well, so I don't know if she wanted me to scratch something under there. I think it might have still tied into that abrasion behind her left ear, so just doing my best to read her in the situation. So got all the way down to the fetlock that time. She was really comfortable with that. So again, now that I'm able to move my hand up and down her leg more or less from top to bottom, that's the next step is going to be that intentional ask of applying pressure below the fetlock, or just above the fetlock, to get her to pick that foot up. She had like all her weight on this front right leg, so it really took a lot. You can see there she's feeling that pressure and wasn't sure about it. Totally a relationship-based response there. Just because I stopped doesn't mean that I released at the wrong time. I released because I saw she was uncomfortable and I wanted to show her that I respect that and acknowledge it. So on this side, there was a lot more just, waiting, applying, not a ton of pressure, just a gentle squeeze, with your fingers just above that fetlock, and sticking through it with them, kind of going through a small tunnel here and just sticking with her until we come out the other end. And I'm staying really in tune with her too, to make sure that we're not maybe slipping into a freeze mode as opposed to just not understanding what I'm asking. That is something that you want to be very careful of, that, your Mustang isn't just freezing up and that it's out of fear that they're not responding as opposed to just not understanding. So this time I'm going to hold past it. She's trying to figure out what I want. There we go. And releasing at the smallest try in the right direction, especially when we're working on this right side where she's not as sure. So I love that she responded that way and just stepping in towards me, letting me know she feels okay with the situation. So starting right back at the top here on the shoulder, and then running my hand down. Adding another layer of confidence and understanding of what that means when my hand starts going down her leg. The cool thing here is with my other Mustangs, teaching them this way, starting at the shoulder and keeping that contact with your hand all the way down. Most of the time now, when I go to clean their feet out and I start doing that, I'll maybe get my hand to about their knee and they are picking their foot up and holding it for me to grab. So it's a really cool way to help them anticipate in the right way. You can see there how I'm just sort of squeezing a soft pulse, because you don't want that pressure. If you just keep a constant pressure, they may become dull to it. So just a gentle squeeze and release here consistently. And trying different methods. She got a little, on edge about that, so I'm going to listen to her and say, okay, no worries, we'll get there. So just rubbing her face there again, especially when she turned into me, making that bid for connection. I want to respond positively to that. So I took a little bit of a change here and actually turned like how I would to normally pick up a foot. I did that primarily because I get a little bit better leverage that way. And what I'm actually going to do here, unfortunately, I'm sorry, the camera's on the wrong side, but what I'm doing is as I'm running down there, I'm actually using my forearm and just leaning it into her leg a little bit. Actually, a little physical like pressure of kind of getting her to try and take some weight off that leg. Because like I said, she had all her weight planted on that leg. So just trying to help encourage her to make that shift of moving more weight onto her other legs. I'm still staying really close and monitoring her and making sure that she's not getting over threshold. She really didn't seem to care about me applying the pressure. It's something I did very gradually. I mean, seconds in between applying 1 pound to 2 pounds to 3 pounds. So you can kind of see my hand there, because what I'm doing is I've got my forearm pressed against her shoulder. There. See how she moved? So it just helped kind of shift her weight. And that was a lot for her. So I'm going to just continue working with her where she's at. We'll come back to that side later, and see if that method helped at all. So she was very hesitant about me touching her face on this side because of that little cut behind her ear. So really good on this side with picking the foot up. Part of the reason this side could be easier is because she has a natural tendency to carry more weight on her right side. I love that she on there. So she may already be naturally set up for me to pick up that front left leg. That's something to consider too. They can carry more weight to one side than the other, much like we do. If you notice there, I'm constantly weighting back on my right leg, and that's my natural stance. So. I am kind of working now on maybe actually there, kind of holding the foot, even if just or holding the leg for a split second. She wasn't quite sure about that. So again, as you're trying something new, you're gonna have to be a little flexible in the moment. It's not, that nowhere near looked like how you would normally hold a leg, but any type of change there with holding the leg is a step in the right direction. So we're gonna, since she was picking up that foot so well, I wanted to switch to this side and just see if we can tie in to how well she was picking up that left foot. Still having to squeeze quite a bit here. She's still got a lot of weight on that front right. There we go. That timing was a lot better as far as how long it took her to adjust. just a small reward there, rubbing her underneath her eye and then stepping back for a moment, see what she thinks. She didn't seem too, quick to want to move back over to have me on the left, so I decided let's go ahead and try this one more time. So I'm kind of squeezing as I go down the leg to maybe try and elicit a response sooner. It's interesting how the day before she was very quick to pick up that foot before I even got down to the fetlock. So that just goes to show, every day can be a little different. And there we go. That one I was really happy with because I actually was able to hold her fetlock, if even for half a second, and just have her kind of understand and go with that pressure. I wanted to call it right there, especially with that being her harder side to work on and being able to hold it for a moment. So this is where I had to work with her a little bit and getting the halter off. She was not wanting me to put my hand anywhere near that cut above her ear. And I had the halter pulled back. So the halter's sitting back about 2 inches from where that little cut is. But you can just see how protective she is of me even trying to do that. So I don't want this situation to escalate, so I'm going to give her a moment to calm down and just kind of work the areas around there. And so I even moved a little too fast for that. And having a long rope is nice, but it also does have its drawbacks. So I'm going to try going at this from a different angle. I'm using the rope halter to kind of help her understand that that is where my hand is going. I'm not trying to go touch anything up where that cut is. Again, it's very minor. I couldn't even see anything. I think she might have just bumped it or something, and it was a little tender. But that just goes to show how sensitive these horses can be. So working a little closer to where that knot is, and doing better this time. And I'm just holding my hand there to show her that that's where I'm headed. I'm not going anywhere else. So here I'm just kind of rubbing her neck while I'm holding the end of that halter, trying to signal to her that I'm just trying to work on the halter. And there, she finally let me in. When I take it off, I always like to make one more connection with them, so I use a little bit of that pressure on the right side of her neck to ask her to look into me before calling it a day.